So, sind wir schon wieder. Mei, oh mei, Lynette hat echt so einigen Blödsinn gebaut. Mal sehen, ob wir ihn dann nochmal rausgehauen bekommen. Lynette. Aber Lynette hängt ja auch genauso mit drin.
Both parties have returned to their positions. Let us continue the trial. When last we left off, Mr. Linney acknowledged the new evidence presented by Lady Farina as fact. Therefore, Lady Farina may continue stating her reconstruction of the events.
That took long enough. Now then, if everyone would lend me their attention. At this stage, let's revisit that scene from Linney's perspective.
Ermittle anhand der Schilderung der Ereignisse der Gegenseite, welche Aspekte ihrer Aussage nicht stichhaltig sind. Okay. Was ich noch kurz einwerfen möchte ist mir schon im letzten Part aufgefallen, aber ich mag's, wie sie die Kameraführung, ich sag mal, dynamischer gemacht haben. Einfach, indem man teilweise geteilte Bilder hat, verschiedene Übergänge. Das ist schon ganz nett. Und sowas, ich glaube, sowas hatten wir bisher auch noch nicht. Und das ist halt deutlich dynamischer als einfach nur, wir zeigen unsere Charaktermodels und die bewegen sich kaum. Oder eben nur sehr steif. Ich finde ja, Genshin Impact hat nicht gerade die belebtesten Charaktere in Cutscenes. Meistens. Leider. Anhand der Beweise und Hinweise, die im Laufe der Untersuchung des Falls gewonnen wurden, können die unhaltbaren Aspekte des Falls widerlegt und durch neue Schlussfolgerungen ersetzt werden. Okay. Liegt übrigens auch daran, dass die sich einfach viel zu viele Aktionen nehmen, die man doch bitte machen soll. Da bleibt keine Zeit für großartige Animierung. Naja. Also Animierung für Cutscenes. Wenn du das Publikum mit einem Gegenargument überzeugt, kann das zu mehr Unterstützung für den eigenen Standpunkt führen. Die Oratrice wird diese Veränderung deutlich machen. Sobald alle unhaltbaren Aspekte identifiziert und widerlegt sind, wird der Widerlegungskreis abgeschlossen und die Wahrheit offenbart.
As the countdown began, he entered the tunnel.
Ja.
When the flatbed trolley passed, he opened the box and got into an altercation with Halsey, which caused the loud thud. He did not realize that the sound could be heard by everyone in the opera house, which is why he claimed earlier that he could not hear the sound. Finally, he used the vase to knock her out, before making her change clothes to prevent others from recognizing her. At this time, Cowell arrived in the tunnel, having heard that strange noise, and caught Linney red-handed. So Linney proceeded to knock him out too before stuffing him into that box. Afterward, Linney passed the unconscious Halsey to his accomplice through the magic box in the audience stands, before operating the devices such that Cowell's death would be ruled an accident.
Okay.
And there you have it. That's the truth behind what happened.
Ich krieg grad so die übelsten Detektiv Conan-Flashbacks. Aber nicht, wenn Conan einen Fall löst, sondern wenn... Gott, wie hieß der noch? Kogoro Mori, wenn der einen Fall lösen wollte. Da kam auch immer so ein Blödsinn dabei raus. Ich bin gespannt.
Does the defendant's side have any objections to Lady Farina's description of the events?
Ja, mehrere.
The key to refuting Lady Farina is the order of events. What Linney experienced and what he saw.
Okay. Handlung von Linney im Tunnel. Linné betrat den Tunnel, als der Countdown begann. Da dürfte es keinen Widerspruch geben. Nachdem Linné... Nein. 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 Ja. Also er hat selbst zugegeben, er ist sofort in den Tunnel hinein. Und ja. Linné hat Halsey angegriffen. Der laute Knall wurde durch den Kampf... Moment. Nee. Genau. Hier haben wir auf jeden Fall Linnés Aussage. Ja.
According to Linny, he left via the vent after entering the tunnel. He couldn't have had that altercation with Halsey.
Linné hat Halsey entführt. Nee, das passt auch nicht. Moment. Kleidung des Mädchens. Ja, okay. Habe ich mir schon gedacht, aber... Was er sah... Stimme in der Oratrice? Nee. Habe ich hier was? Nee. Ich habe jetzt gerade nichts anderes. Ein- und Ausgänge? Nee. Stimme? Hä? Ah, okay. Dann seltsames Geräusch.
Linny did not take part in the underground altercation. He only witnessed traces of the aftermath.
Okay.
Attention! Ace Detective Paimon has something to say.
Ach du Scheiße. Paimon, bitte nicht.
When the countdown started, Linny did indeed go into the tunnel. But he immediately used a vent to access the Opera House basement, which is where the underground core of the Oratrice is stored.
Ich habe übrigens keine Ahnung, ob Oratrice wirklich so ausgesprochen wird. Das hört sich mir nämlich ehrlich gesagt zu englisch an. Aber ich hatte nie Französisch, daher kann ich es nicht sagen. Und die können ja schon Mondstadt nicht ordentlich aussprechen. Und von dem, was ich gehört habe, wie die indischen Namen ausgesprochen haben, war das wohl auch eine einzige Vollkatastrophe. Also wirklich. Und das ist nicht irgendwie, dass ich das, keine Ahnung, auf Reddit oder so gelesen hätte. Nee, von einem indischen Freund. Also.
Once he reached that area, he heard a voice in what should have been an empty room. Since he felt something was amiss, he returned immediately.
Und mit indischen Freund meine ich nicht einen Freund, der irgendwie indische Vorfahren hat, sondern der Kerl ist in Indien geboren, aufgewachsen, lebt da immer noch. Wir haben uns halt auch online kennengelernt.
The crime scene had already developed by the time he reached the tunnel again. And in order to complete the magic trick, he did not remain there for any length of time. Finally, he reached the surface, and that was when the accident happened from his point of view. Therefore, he's innocent.
Also, damit steht aber Aussage gegen Aussage. Und von dem, was wir bisher haben an Beweisen, spricht das nicht für Linnea. Es gibt keinerlei Zeugen, die seine Verhalten bestätigen könnten. Und auch die Indizien sprechen gegen ihn. Also erfolgreich widerlegt ja, aber das dürfte jetzt aber auch in dem
Paimon did it! Paimon actually managed to say all that! Wasn't it awesome?
In other words, you believe that he knew nothing of the incident?
That's right!
Außerdem halte ich die Argumentation der Klägerin für fehlerhaft.
My reasoning?
Die Requisiten auf der Bühne wurden absichtlich von jemandem manipuliert, aber du behauptest, Coral sei zufällig auf Linnea gestoßen.
If that's the case, then if Cowell hadn't entered the tunnel, who was the entire setup meant to kill? Assuming that what you say is true, Linny only needed to kidnap the young girl to cause a new disappearance case. What would the point of killing someone on stage be?
Oh, they have a point.
That's right, you tell him! And that's why they're partners of mine. They've managed to turn things around. Oh, well, your denial is very strident, I'll give you that. But what proof do you have to back your claims?
Erinnerst du dich noch daran, wie du Linneas Alibi widerlegt hast?
Of course I do. If he had been in the magic box the whole time, how could he have not heard that sound? Why do you ask? You're saying that he wasn't?
Deine Aussage ist jetzt zu meiner Waffe geworden. Deine Aussage ist nun zu einem entscheidenden Hinweis geworden. Geht beides. Seltsames Geräusch während der Zaubershow. Ja.
That's right! Linny wasn't in the box or in the tunnel. That's why he didn't hear anything strange during the performance. This means that when the crime happened, Linny had already entered the basement via the vent. The same clue you used to disprove his alibi has now become the best proof! How do you like that?
Well played. To think you'd use such logic. Well then, if it wasn't Linny who committed the crimes, then who was it?
Tja, der Täter war... Trommelwirbel. Wähle die Zahnräder auf dem Bildschirm, um die entsprechende Fallabfrage anzuzeigen. Wähle die jeweiligen Antworten und fülle alle freien Felder aus, um die Richtigkeit deiner Schlussfolgerung zu überprüfen. Im Falle eines Fehlers musst du erneut aus den verbleibenden Möglichkeiten wählen. Sobald alle Fragen richtig beantwortet wurden, ist die Beweiskette abgeschlossen. Warum nicht so wie damals im Samsara? Na egal. Den Ermittlungen der Gendarmerie zufolge entzündeten die vor dem Ende der Zaubershow gezündeten Feuerwerkskörper das Seil, an dem der Wassertank befestigt war, wodurch dieser herunterfiel und Cowles Tod verursachte. Nachdem Linné von jeglichem Verdacht freigesprochen wurden, werden dann nur noch die restlichen Mitglieder der Zaubertruppe, die sich an den Zauberrequisiten hätten zu schaffen machen können. Linné erklärte ausführlich, wie der Zaubertrick funktionieren sollte, mit Hilfe des bla bla bla. Wir haben es ja schon gehört. Ja. Das Kleid der vermissten Halsey wurde aus unbekannten Grund im Tunnel gelassen.
The deceased's name is Cowell, Linny's assistant. He would have been able to tamper with the equipment. Halsey is the missing person and an ordinary audience member. Or did she have her own scheme all along? Could there have been a third person involved? Is that really a possibility?
Wer ist der Einzige, der das Verbrechen hätte begehen können? Eigentlich Halsey. Okay. Dann doch. Oh, okay. Wie ist dann das Mädchen weg?
That can't be right. Are you serious? The killer was, in fact, Cowell, the deceased!
Oh, is that so? How interesting! Let's hear your reasoning then.
What I must do next is recreate the truth. What Cowell did, and how he went from would-be perpetrator to victim.
Oh.
Linny was not in the tunnel at that moment, which gave our criminal ample time.
Nee.
No one entered or left the opera house through its entrances. So, the deceased's name is Cowell, Linny's assistant. Halsey's clothing was in the tunnel. So, there must have been some fear that she would attract attention. The sound we heard may have come from a clash between the missing Halsey and the criminal. It would have been tough for both people to fit into that vent. They would likely have bumped into... No one entered or left the...
Okay.
Linny was not in the tunnel. Halsey's clothing was in... It would have been tough for both people... The deceased's name is Cowell, Linny's... No one entered or left the The deceased's name is Cowell, The deceased's name is Cowell.
Okay. Irgendwie bin ich zu blöd, das nachzuvollziehen.
What's wrong, Traveler? Are you still having trouble figuring things out?
Wo um Himmels Willen ist denn Halsey hin?
I see how it is. So this was all just a bluff. And here I thought you had something to show for it. But it seems you're still far from the truth.
Look, since we're at a dead end, why not consider a different track? Just like the trick as it transpired, the end result must have been utterly different from the magician's initial design.
If only we knew how far it disappeared.
Well, that would be nice, but the tunnel only has 3 exits, and none of them seem very likely. And it's not like this is a magic trick where you can just make a real live person disappear. You know, like you did from that water tank, Lynette.
Aus dem Wassertank verschwinden. Könnte es das Wasser gewesen sein?
Excuse my interruption, dear opponents, but do you not see that the crowd is growing impatient? There is no greater sin in this opera house than an awkward delay in the performance.
If the defense is unable to make further effective arguments, we will move on to the next stage of the trial.
Wartet!
Lenny was not in the tunnel at that moment. The sound we heard may have come from the deceased's name is Cowell, Lenny. The vase was not broken by chance. It was used to cover important evidence. The water.
Paimon gets it! It all comes together if Halsey disappeared instead of being kidnapped. Lynette escaped from the water tank, vanishing gradually and leaving only clothes behind. If there's a similar method where a person could be transformed into water...
Just a moment, please. I do hope you know how preposterous you sound at the moment. Could a person ever be transformed into water? This is reality we're talking about here, not some magic trick.
Ich bitte um eine Durchsuchung von Cowells persönlichen Gegenständen. Vielleicht werden wir etwas finden. Solltet ihr nicht sowieso schon durchsucht sein? Und andererseits, wir haben doch schon eine, wie heißen sie noch? Okeanide gefunden, die aussah wie eine Menschenfrau. Also wäre möglich. Die Sache ist halt nur, ist das dann deren Ernst? Also
Must we really? I should think that of anyone. Your friend Linny already knows this truth very well. Magic tricks are ultimately just illusions and misdirection. But Halsey's disappearance is very real. We're talking about 2 completely different things.
Even so, I trust the Traveler's judgment. The truth must be out there somewhere. Perhaps some new line of reasoning may open if we try to gather all the focal points that don't make sense. Since Cal was the deceased, we haven't placed much attention on him. But given that we aren't making much progress with the case, it wouldn't hurt to have a look at his belongings, would it?
People really do come up with all sorts of harebrained schemes when at the end of their rope. The way I see it, your suggestion that we broaden the scope of our investigation is nothing but a tactic for stalling the trial.
Nevertheless, I believe that this is a reasonable request on the part of an attorney. Since the trial does indeed appear to be at an impasse, I believe that additional evidence may help us make more progress. Guards, please step into the lounge and examine the personal effects of the deceased, Cowell.
ja, toll.
We are still examining the items, but we have already made critical progress that we feel must be shared with everyone post-haste. We discovered several test tubes of fluid within Cowell's baggage, each labeled separately.
Okay.
The notebook in his backpack claims that these fluids are water from the primordial sea.
The primordial sea.
The note's contents also indicate that Cowell belonged to an organization that sells illegal drugs and that he had an accomplice. The notebook has many entries concerning safe usage of these fluids, in which the keyword dissolve appears many times. One of these tubes was labeled Opera Epiclese, along with yesterday's date. It is empty. The notes also state that these dissolution properties work exclusively on people from Fontaine. It's likely that Halsey was chosen as some sort of test subject. As such, we believe that the defense's hypothesis is, in fact, supported by sufficient evidence.
You've got to be kidding! People dissolving into water?
Could something so ridiculous actually be true?
Wait a moment. This reminds me of a certain prophecy, but it's just a coincidence, isn't it?
If people can become water, does that mean that the water tank's real use was as a means to hide water stains? And if Cowell was targeting that girl... Wait just a minute. Could that mean... You two, with me, quick!
Demoiselle, wait! What about your partners?
Let's go. Just trust me.
Order! Order! It is undeniable that further examination of the deceased's personal effects has yielded some surprising results, but we cannot yet verify the veracity of these clues. Still, let us assume that these clues are indeed authentic, albeit with the understanding that Ms. Halsey has yet to be found. Guards, please continue examining the items along these lines. Mr. Linney, it appears your hypothesis is supported by the evidence, so please continue speaking.
Of course. Thank you, Your Honor. If we uphold this hypothesis, I believe that many of this case's seemingly unrelated clues can be connected together.
Right! Like the metal hook! That one didn't make sense at all. Let's think about this. Cowell's methods must have something to do with that water from the primordial sea.
Wasser des Urmeeres, eine Flüssigkeit, die von... ja, okay.
The water from the primordial sea should already have been prepped before Halsey entered the magic. Now it seems like the hook rope was not meant for another magic trick, but was instead some form of triggering mechanism. The deceased's name is Cowell.
Ja, okay.
The rope that strung the water tank up was lit by the fireworks and cut. Lynette was in the magic box on stage the entire time. I remember there was something else within the inner layer of that box. Lynette was in the magic box on stage the water from the primordial sea.
Mit welchem Hilfsmittel hat der Täter Halsey aufgelöst? Ach so.
Lynette was in the magic box on stage. Now it seems like the hook rope was not. The water from the primordial sea should all. The deceased's name is Cow.
Und hier.
Lynette was in the magic box on stage. I remember there was something else within the inner layer of that box. The water from the primordial sea should all.
Ach, Moment. Quatsch. Wer ist der derzeitige Hauptverdächtige? Vielleicht einfach mal die Sachen. Welchem Hilfsmittel hat der Täter zur Verfügung, um den Zeitpunkt des Auflösens zu kontrollieren? Nee. Mit dem Wasser des Urmeeres und mit welchem Hilfsmittel hat der Täter Mechanismus? Hä? Ach so. Ja, okay, dann mit der Struktur. Ich habe die Fragen oben nicht bemerkt. Ich Depp.
original plan, Cowell would tamper with the water tank rope, and the number selector securing his target. When the magic box containing Halsey was lowered, the metal hook would retract gradually and pierce the balloon at the top of the box. When the balloon attached to the box popped, the water from the primordial seed inside it would pour down and dissolve Halsey. Afterward, Cowell would enter the tunnel and break the flower vase to conceal the water inside the tunnel, with the remaining evidence being covered up by the water tank on stage. But he encountered something unexpected in the tunnel, and wound up being fatally hit by the same water tank he meant to use to cover his tracks.
Huh. That does make sense.
That actually links together a lot of the more confusing pieces of evidence.
Oh dear, what do I do? Even I think they sound convincing now. Have I falsely accused an innocent person? What a humiliation.
Now, it seems like the only point of contention remaining is the exact circumstances that led to Cal's death. His notes mentioned he had an accomplice who could be related to the situation.
On that note, the guards have just contacted me indicating that they uncovered new evidence. I shall now invite him on stage to share it with us.
Ja dann.
Thank you, Your Honor. We were just inspecting the luggage of the other people involved in this case. And we found an identical sample of the water from the primordial sea among Linny's personal effects.
What?
That can't be. Oh, I see. Well, how wonderful, comedic, to have your own counterattack only to come back and wound you. Does this not clear all doubt? My dear citizens, my loyal audience, allow me to present my reasoning and bring this performance to a swift close.
Yeah.
Linny did not need to take part in the dissolution of the young woman at all. Indeed, he did leave the scene via the vent.
Ja.
Having made modifications to the props beforehand, his accomplice Cowell then caused Halsey to vanish using the water from the primordial sea.
Ja.
But upon his return, in cruel avarice, Linny desired sole credit and prepared to do away with his partner in crime.
Okay.
Ultimately, he knocked Cowell out, and the tool meant to cover the crime up also became a murder weapon. Now, as much as I regret having come to such a viciously straightforward conclusion, it does seem that the famed Fatui is quite the cold-blooded and ruthless organization.
Das ist sehr schwer gegen zu argumentieren. Also, nach dem ganzen Blödsinn, die Fatui, die letzten, ja, eigentlich die letzten 3. In Mondstadt waren sie ja noch nicht so aktiv. Die letzten 3 Nationen gemacht haben. Ja. Sie sind kaltblütig und rücksichtslos.
Am I right, Mr. Linny?
We've used up all the evidence we collected. There's no way for us to make a rebuttal here. Is this the end of the road?
Nein.
Oh no. Paimon can't think of anything either. It doesn't look like there's any way around this. Seems using the water as new evidence was too good a move. Why did this have to happen now?
I think we've all seen enough now, and we have ample witnesses to my flawless reasoning. I believe this is indeed the finale. then, my good, noble Chief Justice, should we not, in your view, move...
Excuse me, everyone, but I must interject.
Miss, I must ask you not to shout, and to respect the ongoing legal proceedings.
Oh, come on. Don't be hasty. I have a good reason for interrupting, you know. Now, would anyone here like to take a little break from all this debate and see a little magic? I'll show you an amazing trick. One that can bring a young woman who has disappeared back in the flesh, right before your very eyes. Please, do the honors, Mr. Linney, if you would be so kind.
What in the world is she saying?
No offense, miss, but miracles like that are beyond my scope as a magician.
Come on now, don't be silly. Magic is all about misdirection, isn't it? It often conceals the truth while presenting a fascinating illusion. But once everyone believes the illusion, can't magic reveal the truth to them once again? And wouldn't such a trick be the most marvelous finale to today's performance? Come on, Lenny and Lynette. Give it another go. Don't worry. Spina di Rasula has made the necessary arrangements on your behalf. But, as the magic makers and stars of the show, I think I should leave the final performance to you. Understand.
Klatsch, das war ein Schnipp.
And voila.
Sorry for the interruption.
Wait, isn't that Halsey? So the whole thing about people dissolving wasn't true after all?
To be clear, I'm only here because this person told me that if I testified, the merit of doing so would lessen my sentence. I was waiting outside this room listening to the proceedings because I was afraid that I would be the one put on trial. I was just feeling happy that no one had noticed me, and then before I knew it, she caught me.
That'll teach you to underestimate us three.
Where should I begin? I'm sorry. I'm the one who killed Cowell. I admit it.
What? Why?
Firstly, my name isn't Halsey. It's Lillian, and I'm originally from Mondstadt. I heard that Linny's show was gonna be a real thriller, but I missed the chance to buy a ticket, so I stole one. That's how I make a living. I steal stuff here and there. And I'd never been caught before. But I was noticed at the harbor a few days ago, and I barely got away. Linny was the one who caught me in the act.
Hey, no wonder you look familiar. So you were the thief. Liddy even mentioned that you were pretty skilled.
Well, and I thought that would have been the end of it, but then the number selector chose me. He even mentioned the Fortress of Meripede. That's a prison, isn't it? So you can imagine how shocked I was. I thought he was onto me for sure. So I played along with the show while looking for an opening to flee. But then I got water poured on me for no reason, and then someone jumped into the tunnel to nab me. I wasn't going to take that lying down, so I knocked him out and stuffed him into the box. There was nowhere to run from there, though, so I had to change my clothes and hide in a box containing performance costumes. I slipped out after the first guard arrived at the scene and continued hiding inside the opera house.
Wie?
Can a person even hide in there?
Wenn diese Person ein Händchen fürs Verstecken hat, dann ist es gut möglich. Wenn man denkt, dass sie eine Diebin ist. Ich habe gehört, es gibt sogar Leute, die sich in einem Fass verstecken. Die findet man wohl vor allem auf der Insel Korinis im Minental, in einem Ort namens das alte Lager. Wirklich seltsam. Nur, wie bist du aus dem Tunnel entkommen und konntest dich dann woanders im Opernhaus verstecken? Also, ernsthaft, das ist... Da waren überall Wachen. Naja, gut.
But I swear I didn't know that the water tank would fall down. Really, I swear it. Had I known that, I wouldn't have put him in the magic box. I may be a thief, but I'm no killer.
Well, that makes everything pretty clear now, doesn't it?
Es stimmt. Das ist eine Zeit, die Argumentation des Hydro-Archons zu widerlegen.
This time, we need to tell the entire story from Lillian's perspective.
Ja. Also, Ereignisse im Tunnel. Danach verließ er die Luftöffnung und war nicht an der Auflösung des jungen Mädchens beteiligt. Ja, wie ich gerade höre, hier hört es, glaube ich, auf. Ich muss mich verabschieden. Das machen wir beim nächsten Mal. Gruß, Sinners Fan.